Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone is just over there. Not sure if you can see her yet, but she says hello. How you doing? And as do I. I hope you're all happy and healthy doing the things that you love with those that you love to do them with. Guys, can I ask you for some favours? If you don't mind, only if you enjoy the content, hit the like button for me on the video. It really helps, I guess, remind the algorithm that I'm back. And hit the subscribe button whilst you're at it if you haven't already, or even if you had in the past. And then because of my absence, you presumed that I was done, I was out of here, I was gonzo. And therefore, you didn't want my channel clogging up your subscription feed. Well, look, I'm back, I'm trying to be back. So hit the button again, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. And they are the transfer news, views, and clues that I've missed doing with yous so much. Two stories today, really, but we've got to put the weave in, the Donald Trump weave, where you go off on a tangent and bring it back to make it make sense. Sometimes, guys, I am guilty. We, as a channel, are guilty of over-analysing the viability of a player for a certain system, only to find that within a few months of doing all the work, thinking it's a great fit, then the manager goes and you're left with a horses for courses debate around whether or not the next guy, the next managerial cab off the rank is going to make use of this player, or whether this player who wasn't a great fit for the last guy is a better fit for the next guy. Bearing in mind the statistics show that unless you're part of the big 3 teams, I think, and 7 managers that have broken the mold in recent years, most of the time you're signing a player on a 4 or 5 year contract, sometimes 6, sometimes 8 in the case of Chelsea before the rules changed, only to find that the manager who lasts for an average of about 12 months is gone. That's not always a problem as long as there is some sort of managerial philosophical continuity and consistency that is embedded into the club's DNA through the owner. But at Tottenham, you can't really give Daniel Levy credit for that. In fact, you have to, and should, rightly so, criticise him for the obvious managerial flip-flopping over the last 5 years post-Pochettino, as he has tried to, on some level, yield to the demands of the fan base in terms of needing immediate success, paying through the nose fortunes for players or for managers who wanted more money spent than Daniel Levy deemed was affordable, and also more control than Daniel Levy was willing to yield. And so all of those 4 or 5 managers since Pochettino have ended in disaster. And on top of that, we have pivoted from back 3s to back 4s, from deep lines to forward to high lines, from traditional fullbacks to inverted fullbacks. A lot of change in the philosophical approach to football that makes it very difficult for any kind of sort of DNA to emerge, any kind of consistency, and any ability for the players to be able to show their expertise at one particular style for an extended period of time. And so you need to rely too much, I think, on adaptability and versatility in the footballing brains of players. And it's necessary, it's lovely if you've got it, but it shouldn't always have to be at the forefront of the profiling. And I hope that whether or not Ange Postecoglou is here next year, I very much doubt he will be here in 4 or 5 years' time. There's nothing to suggest he would do, because he hasn't done that in the past. Most managers don't. And so you are buying a player for the next manager. What I would hope that Daniel Levy has learnt from this exercise is that the next manager shouldn't be too different, too dissimilar to Ange. Maybe, Ange light, I guess. Just like a kind of dialed back version of him where we have, just a little bit more context, a little bit more adaptability, a little bit more consideration to the needs and the nuances of the particular situation than this kind of gung-ho all-out attack approach, which I love the football from. I love the entertainment side, but in terms of will it yield success at this level, as I said to you on the last video, I'm doubtful it will. I would love it if it did. If it does, fantastic. And I'm certainly not Ange out or anything like that. I have concerns whether or not it's a little bit too far from out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak, from the last guy. And so, getting back to the point, sometimes we spend too much time analysing the viability of a player and whether or not he's a good fit for Ange Ball, considering that maybe he won't be here in 6 months' time. Well, with this guy, I think that for 9 out of 10 systems, he's a good fit. Back 3 doesn't matter. Back 4 doesn't matter. High line, low line, he's good He's capable. He's physically fit. He's physically impressive. 6'4". I think one of the best leaps, the highest leaps, standing leaps in the Bundesliga. A champion, Bundesliga champion. Can play right-footed, left-footed. Solid pass for the ball. On the ball, he's absolutely no problems. Commendable, tactical. He can thread it through the eye of a needle. I'm not saying he's top 2 or 3 in the world at any particular discipline, but I'm saying he is top 10, top whatever, and he is a monster. I am, of course, talking about Jonathan Tah. Story broke a couple of days ago that Tottenham are back interested in him, as are Barcelona, as are Liverpool, as are a bunch of other clubs, and that's okay, right? We used to think, rightly so, that once you're competing for the best players against and with the best teams, Tottenham don't really have a sales pitch versus Liverpool, and I'd still say it's going to be a struggle. However, we've proven in the last year or two, with the Radu Dragusin story and the Lucas Bergwall story, that we can go up against Barcelona, we can go up against Bayern Munich, and we can win. Now, whether or not that's been deemed a success or a win for the players, I'm not so sure. Radu Dragusin, has he been a good fit? Has he really materialised thus far? I know it's early days and he's a small sample size, but has he really lived up to the hype? I would say no, if I'm entirely honest. I think that, a lot of impatience in waiting to play, and if I'm entirely honest, in the games that I've seen him, a solid reader of the ball, can read the game very well, but the needs and the nuances of this system are, as a defender, you're going to need pace and bags of it when you inevitably give up the ball in the transition, which we do of a too high frequency for my liking at the moment. And so you need people that can get you out of trouble. And for me, Radu Dragusin he just hasn't got the pace, and he gets caught out positionally in too many games that I've seen. And so, that horses for courses role probably is a good sort of barometer there. But with Jonah Tah, I don't think there is that. I think he can play in pretty much any position in the back 3, back 4, centre, right, left, 2-footed, as I say, good enough on the ball. And then in terms of pace, he's not as fast as Micky, no one is, but he's not that much slower. Solid as a rock, strong like Gleisen Bremer, can read the ball, read the game. And if Tottenham, in your mind, still have a weakness from set pieces, even though it's been managed a lot better this season than it was last season, it's still, I think, a concern. It rears its ugly head occasionally. Then Jonah Tah is one of the best at set piece sort of compatibility and preparedness, and I think his experience in that regard will, in no small part, be a benefit. And so, is he a good fit? Yes, I think he very much is. The only problem is the profiling. As I say, Daniel Levy right now is very much focusing Tottenham towards youth. There's obviously this criticism around, does Daniel Levy back his manager? I don't think you can really, with a straight face, say that Ange Postecoglou hasn't been backed to the point where he's unhappy with his signings. The reality of the situation is, though, that the cost of talent today at times can be eye-watering, especially if you are someone that has to work out and figure out some future concerns regarding homegrown. Then you're paying a lot more than you typically would for the same level of player who doesn't have a British passport or an English heritage in terms of training for the football club. Dominic Solanke, I think he's a wonderful talent, a wonderful player. I think he is a good fit, as good a step-in, stand-in for Harry Kane as is realistically possible. But £67 million, I think club record signing, give or take, is a lot. For a player that has improved year in, year out, but who ultimately is, we'll have to wait and see whether or not that trend continues to justify the value, as always. How about a better example of eye-watering costs for as yet unproven value is Archie Gray. Wonderful player. I think this guy's going to be sensational. I think he's going to go on and have a wonderful career. I love his thought process, his brain, his footballing brain for someone so young to read things that are happening in the peripheral. He does that kind of left-right look like Xavi and Iniesta used to do all the time. You can see that he's watched a variety and learnt from, been inspired by, or from a lot of the world's best at certain different disciplines in football, and I think that's going to yield wonderful results for him. His versatility, I think this season he's already played DM, centre back, left back, right back. He's played a bit of everywhere, which is, like I say, a wonderful thing as a football club. You like to have the versatility. I just don't know whether or not that sort of that demonstration of skill set is going to be a bit of an Achilles heel for him, in as much as I said at the start, the preamble to this rant, that sometimes you don't get to see, with managerial pivots, you don't get to see a player excel for any meaningful length of time in a specific discipline from a specific position and see what a manager is asking. If you keep changing your manager and you change and adapt the base frequency of what your football looks like, then it can be disruptive to a player's continuity. And with Archie Gray, does the versatility mean that he will always be used here, there and everywhere as a tool that covers other people's absences? I just worry a little bit whether or not, it's very early for me to be saying this in his career, so I'm maybe just sort of ad-libbing here a little bit, but I just wonder whether or not it's going to be better for him to pick a position and to knuckle down and nail it and become the best at that particular thing versus being an everything guy. Because an all-rounder can obviously, it's very rare that you're an all-rounder that can play everywhere and be the best at everything. But in terms of this guy's talent, for me, it's unquestionable. However, £45 million for a player that, until now had never played in the Premier League, had put in a good couple of performances against Premier League opposition in the Cups, but was a Championship player last season. Of course, at 18, 17 years old, a breakthrough season. It's a lot of money, though. You're baking in a lot of potential future success right now, which is always a concern. Jonah, back to the point, he's 27 years old. He's not English. He wouldn't count as a homegrown. But is Daniel Levy going to be okay with paying the sort of money that you're going to pay for when you don't have necessarily that sell-on value at the end of the first contract? And that is where Daniel Levy sometimes, again, can miss the trick because I understand the need for sell-on value. I understand the need for asset attainment. And I get it from a financial position. But with the cost of doing business what it is anyway, and your general reluctance to push the boundaries with regards the on-book risk, then if Tottenham's desire to move to the next level requires some real specificity and high-level improvements, just to drop into the few last places in the squad that still need to be improved on, a left back to give Udogie some competition, a left-sided centre-back or a utility centre-back that can do both but is of the top level, in a world where Romero is here or otherwise, in a world where Radu Dragusin is here or otherwise, you still need somebody else to step in, especially if one of them or both of them are looking at futures elsewhere next season. Then you need to go big. And I think, as I said before, the whole break back 2 months ago, I think enough now with the 18-year-old stuff. For now, we've got enough. Our future is brighter than the sun. We have to wear shades when we look at the squad roster, but enough of that. Now you just got to plug in some real ready now, here now talent. Here now, ready now talent. And Jonah for me is someone that it doesn't matter whether you pivot next to a guy that looks a bit like Ange in philosophical continuity or different. And I hope it's not too different. But Jonah, if it's him, will be here long after Ange is gone. And so, is he a good fit for whatever that next version looks like? And I say, yes, he is. He's excellent player. I'd love to see him come into the club. The next up, the last one for you guys is Johnny Cardoso. Cardoso, I think, or Cardoso. He's a Real Betis player, and he is American, Spanish-American. And he has an option, or we have an option on him, £20 million, I think it is, give or take, option to sign him in January. Lots of people are looking, lots of teams are lining up to buy this guy, and he is a real talent. It's a DM, a 6. I like him. I think I don't necessarily know if he's ready yet, like really for what we need, but is he a talent? 100%. He's young, he's energetic, he's got a bit of spike and spite about him, and he's a good passer of the ball. I think, though, however, having said all that, I'm not convinced that he is the monster 6 that we are looking for. I worry very much when I see the second half against Ipswich, and Ange has that mindset where we've already got 4 or 5 basically strikers or wingers on the pitch, and when Pape Sarr goes down injured, you bring on Timo Werner, and then the only non-forward in the team outside of the back four is Bentancur, who's not even a 6 anyway. The balance was all off in that second half. I think that the idea of throwing more attacking players on when you're chasing a game, it makes sense to a point, but you're not going to catch a team if you have 11 strikers on the pitch. You need balance. You can't abandon balance. And it reminded me a little bit of of Pochettino against Bayern Munich in the Champions League when we lost 7-2, I think it was, and it just looked a little bit kind of tactically naive there to think that the answer to a team that's losing despite having too many strikers on the pitch is more strikers or more forwards. I'm not sure that made sense. But either way, we don't have a monster 6 that could handle that. And Bentancur isn't that. Sarr's not that. Bissouma isn't that. Archie Gray, I don't think is that yet. We need a 6, a defensive midfielder that is of top quality. And I don't think we have it. I think we have too many 8s. I think 1 or 2 of them have to be moved on, or something has to budge in that regard to make space for a proper specific number 6 that we haven't solved for. And I've been calling for it for 2 years. Cardoso, I'm not sure is the guy yet for that for me. I haven't seen enough of him to think confidently that he is the guy. What I would say is financially and from a kind of revenue strategic perspective, which Daniel Levy's always got one thought process or many thought processes towards, it is interesting. Bearing in mind that this NFL notion that's going on right now about them extending the international series, more players or more games that are coming to London and possibly into Europe, and obviously Tottenham and the stadium is going to be a benefactor of that. More revenue for the club, always a good thing, especially if it comes from customers that are not typically Tottenham fans. It's an introduction to them into our ecosystem, the experience that is offer, the matchday experience that is on offer at our stadium. Plus, of course, if you are American and you are watching your number 1 sport, but you're considering picking a Premier League team as you begin to discover this sport, then being reminded every time you watch the London series that it's coming to you live from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium gives Tottenham a shout to being that particular person's club of choice as they move into the world of the Premier League. And how you put a value on that is kind of difficult, but it can be the start, the genesis of a generational thing where that person's family forevermore will be a Tottenham fan. It can bring in direct revenue, but obviously it's difficult to kind of identify how much money that can bring in, but it certainly is enough on paper for Daniel Levy to have stopped with the naming rights negotiations and maintain that brand Tottenham Hotspur visibility to the American audience. The challenge for me is Daniel Levy spends a little bit too much time nurturing that kind of or trying to yield from that golden egg of the Korean market. Obviously Sonny, the new guy, Hwak Tu, and spit on that Yang. There's obviously money and revenue that's ready now, here now, available from that market, and Tottenham would of course be incredibly stupid to not take advantage of it. But there is an opportunity cost, and the American market is very, very fruitful as well. There's noise still today, again, coming back up that the Premier League are thinking about having a 39th game that takes things over to America. But Tottenham are not the only club in the Premier League that want to benefit from that market. Newcastle, Aston Villa, Chelsea, United, all loads and loads of teams that are very capable, very interesting potentially to a fan as an option as they move into the Premier League market. We'll be looking at them, and they have been visible in the American market over the last couple of summers, and for some teams going back a long time, and Tottenham haven't. And so there's that kind of balancing act, that sort of ball juggling, plate spinning consideration of where's the opportunity cost? How much money can we get? How much more money can we get from Korea? And respecting that whole side of the world's audience that wants to see us. You can't do everything. We've been to Korea the last 2 summers. Is it time to pivot across to America? Would Johnny Cardoso and his American attachment to the US men's national team, would that value be a catalyst for more American fans to pick Tottenham as their choice? Other teams have American players. It would be nice to think that Tottenham could. We had a lot of American players in the past. It'd be nice to see if we could get back into that. Brad Fiedel, Casey Keller, there's loads of them. Paul Stalteri, I think he was Canadian, wasn't he? But our presence in the American market could benefit from that significantly, and so there is that consideration around Johnny Cardoso and his viability. I don't know enough about the player. I haven't followed Betis this season, but what I can tell you is that we do have that option for £20 million to sign him in January, or we could, if we don't think he's the guy, we can take the option and pivot it to a sell-on fee for wherever he goes next. And according to the reports, there are lots of teams that are looking at this guy and think he could be the next thing. I'm just not sure. I'm not saying he's not. I just haven't seen enough of him yet to figure out whether or not I think he is the monster six. It's a key position. We can't get it wrong, regardless of whether Ange is here or the next guy. There is always a need for a monster six, and Tottenham don't have it. We have players that are capable of filling in, but I just don't think we have someone that is a master of one. And as I say, players like Archie Gray could be that guy, but for him to be that guy, he needs to focus on that position and not be a journeyman who will fill in wherever, because every manager, every club loves someone that can do a job. But I think that he at some point will need to take his skill set and his interest and his the impressions that he's taken from the players that he's learnt from over his youth, and pick a style and use and nurture and focus on enhancing whatever he has in his locker for that particular position. Either way, I don't think he is the monster six that we need just yet either. So for me, a left back, left-sided centre back, a six, and then maybe a goalkeeper is the next kind of things to drop into our transfer kitty window. And for me, Jonathan Tah would be an excellent first name, as long as Daniel Levy can park or suspend that demand for us to go after 18-year-olds. Enough kids. We've got more 18-year-old talent than the hub. Guys, like, subscribe and comment. I'll be back tomorrow. Take it easy. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.